Greetings, wanderers. Today's topic is: my wife remembers every single face she's ever seen and immediately recalls it. Is that valuable? Classically, politics. Politicians practice every trick they can to remember names and faces, and a couple things about the person. Bigger name politicians might meet and greet with 10,000 people a year. If you remember everyone, you're getting elected every time, and having a way easier time getting things and making things happen. Management at a big company can be similar. Of course, you need the social skills and charisma to match for those. Just as a savant, I guess security, looking for missing persons and fugitives. Like you say, computer facial recognition is starting to do that pretty well. Plus, what would it be like as a job? Just scanning security camera footage all day? Other than that, it feels like mostly just a strong trait for customer service type jobs. Or teachers remembering students' names, etc. Savant was the word I was looking for. This is a blessing and a curse. I've got the same thing. I never forget a face. My wife thinks it's weird, but she also has face blindness, so we're kind of the perfect couple. No matter how long it's been, I will always recognize someone I've met previously. Can't remember anyone's name to save my life, but the face doesn't lie. Makes for awkward conversations with people you've met in passing once years before and then come across again later in life in a different setting. Similarly, sometimes I will meet someone and feel like I already know them because I've seen them somewhere before but didn't actually meet them at that time. With my inability to remember names and details, this is a totally useless superpower for me. Holy shit, I've been saying this exact thing almost word for word my whole life. A few years ago, they were looking to recruit people on the police force here with that skill. Basically so they could help identify criminals, or perhaps in the programming of facial recognition software. Basically, it's valuable to that person. Don't lose the skill. I had it until a motorcycle accident. Your brain remembers things for a reason, and identifying a person not only helps protect you but helps you recognize patterns in their behavior that they might deny. Have her take the Super Recognizers test. Dumb name, but that's what we're called. www.superrecognizers.com. I'm one too. It's not good for much, but it's a fun superpower to have. The FBI or other law enforcement looking for missing or wanted persons. At least according to a documentary that talked about people like your wife. It's not a common trait by any means. Facial recognition still has problems, and a person could be better when actively looking in the field. I used to remember every face I met, I thought. But it was never like you're describing. Actors, yes. Extras? No, the one-line role on Friends, yeah, I'd recognize that, but not as a baby. That's so cool. I struggle with faces, even famous ones. I thought Todd in Breaking Bad was Matt Damon, BTW, that dude we met in London. Not only it's from baby to 25-year-old, he has obviously lived a hard life and abusing powerful drugs. His teeth were almost all gone, face covered in scabs, dry and burnt skin from being outside all day. I have a photographic memory. I literally take a snapshot of something and can recall it back. Unfortunately, it fails me when it comes to faces. But I can tell you what they wore, hair color/style, and what they drive off in. I'm this way, and it drives my wife nuts. We're constantly checking IMDb. Can't remember names for shit, though, unless I've written or typed it. All visual memory. I used to never forget a face and a name as a kid, and then sometime in my 20s the name started being a problem. As a teen, I had a friend in the Air Force many years ago who used to shop on base all the time. We used to go to the grocery store when I was hanging out with him to see what they had in stock. There was one cashier who knew everyone's ID number by heart. I didn't believe him until I watched her work. It was insane. You show your ID the first time and she never had to ask again. I'm on the other end of the spectrum on this. It's extremely hard to remember faces, and it makes life difficult in various minor ways. I see my neighbor passing outside a few times a week and say hi, then walk right by him at the grocery store. That requires a bit of social cleanup. Starting new jobs is really hard. People tend to only like you introducing yourself once. You can imagine the other ways this can offend people. While there may not be a direct way to commercialize this, it is the kind of thing that could make her excel in the kinds of fields that really value personal recognition. So things like hospitality, event planning, sales, counseling, medicine, etc. If she has any interest in something like this, her ability to recognize faces may be the kind of thing that pushes her from good to great. I am there too, smiley face. My only proud moment in faces is when I notice that Stephanie from Bold and Beautiful looks like a female version of Anthony Hopkins, D. I can do this. I'm an artist and see all the details in faces, and it sticks in my brain. It used to drive my then husband crazy because the TV show and movie thing is real. He'd swear I was wrong and voila, after searching, I was right. My son is always amazed. But names? I'm a total disaster. Your wife, in days of old, might have been one of the jailers assigned to memorizing the faces of those in the debtor's prison. Charles Dickens wrote about it in the Pickwick Papers, among other places. Here Mr. Pickwick was apprised that he would remain, until he had undergone the ceremony known to the initiated as sitting for your portrait. Mr. Pickwick complied with the invitation, and sat himself down, when Mr. Weller whispered that the sitting was merely another term for undergoing an inspection by the different turnkeys, in order that they might know prisoners from visitors. The stout turnkey sat down, and looked at him carelessly from time to time, while a long thin man who had relieved him thrust his hands beneath his coat tails, and planting himself opposite, took a good long view of him. A third rather surly-looking gentleman, who had apparently been disturbed at his tea, for he was disposing of the last remnant of a crust and butter when he came in, stationed himself close to Mr. Pickwick, and, resting his hands on his hips, inspected him narrowly, while two others mixed with the group, and studied his features with most intent and thoughtful faces. At length the likeness was completed, and Mr. Pickwick was informed that he might now proceed into the prison.